Is the Fire Department staff review. This is for information and discussion only. And take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. Honorable Mayor and Council, it's my pleasure.
Chief, I apologize.
We do have the roll call of the one person, yes, of us, and then the one person.
Okay, roll call. Councilmember Carnevale? Present. Councilmember Lamb? Here. Councilmember Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gregory? Here. Mayor Ross?
Here, we're all here. Just in case you didn't see us.
And we do have agenda finalization, just in case there are any changes.
And there are no changes to the agenda,
much.
Mayor.
Right.
I had already gone to the staff report was the thing I had moved upon. So please, sir, we turn it to you.
We're ready to go. Okay. It's my honor to present this today. A lot of this you've already heard because, to be quite frank, you've given us the resources to accomplish what we've accomplished over the last 2 years. But this is going to be a recap, and with that, really starts almost 2.5 years ago. At the time that I got here, we had a lot of openings, we had a lot of broken down equipment, we had a lot of things that needed to be fixed. And over the 2 years, with staff's help, with the council's help, with your, most importantly, your funding, we've brought us to where we are here today, which is, if you talk to the men and women of the fire department, it's, what is Cathedral City? And I set pretty lofty goals when I got here, was we are going to be the premier fire department in the Coachella Valley. Now, some may say that's limiting, but what I'm going to present to you today is, I'd say we're not just limited to the Coachella Valley. We're one of the top, what I would say, top 7 in Southern California. When you look at our standards, you look at our ratings, you look at the things that the men and women of the department have built, and how they've taken what my vision is and focused it to the future. And that's what I'm going to present to you here today. So when you look at the department, I talk about, again, I'll go back and forth to 2 years ago, this was the fire department, right? At that time, there wasn't a deputy chief. All the EMS functions were done by a fire captain in the field. And I would still say that the majority of our administrative functions are done by people in the field. Well, as I've presented before, and I'll present here today, with the increase in calls, right? We talk about the increase in revenue, in billing reimbursement. All those things have increased, but our staff hasn't. And so we're really at a breaking point when you look at what we're trying to capture from revenue to make sure the city gets every bit that we can. How do we do that, right? There is a point where less is just less, and you can't do less with more. So as we go through here, please keep in mind, I'll present at the end kind of where we're headed, but this was accomplished with just the addition of the deputy chief, and that was it. It was done by the men and women and the administrative staff. So fire admin, very simply, that's the overall, if you will, administrating the fire department, right? With that, there's my admin. We're doing budgets, we're doing planning, more of a strategic, like, where are we headed? I'm not really focused on today, tomorrow, or next week. I'm focused where are we going to be in 6 months. Our records, that part of our records is ambulance billing, making sure that we get that, our invoices, get it not only to our third-party biller, but then also to the federal government. We're making sure that we get checking records and making sure that what we're supposed to get, we're actually getting into the city's coffers. Facilities and maintenance, that's one thing that the council, and with the help of facilities, we've made huge strides. Some of our stations were falling down. With this Measure W and some of the things we're trying to do with that, we're able to get our facilities up to a livable level. And then personnel management, right? Do we need people? Do we not need people? Are we adding? Are we taking away? Certifications, making sure everybody's compliant, all our ambulance stuff, all that stuff falls under personnel management. The next is emergency services. We have, like I've said it many times, we have the luxury to have the ambulance program. That's ambulance services. Emergency services is fire engines, fire and trucks, and the accidents, the hazardous materials. We had 2 years or a year and a half ago, Hurricane Hillary. That's all under emergency services. We still do patient assessments that we do with our ambulance. However, we have the dual role where we can send an engine and we can send an ambulance. Sometimes we need both. So depending on what we need, we'll send the right piece of equipment. We've already talked about ambulance services. This is where we've actually seen not only a lot of growth, but a lot of growth from service. A lot of people look at it just in a revenue standpoint, but this is what our customers are using. They need that transport from their house to the hospital. And for a lot of people, this is that critical lifeline. Fire prevention, we've now got our own fire marshal. Has helped with the intergov and the implementation of that, so we can do plan review, which helps developers, helps property owners. We can get that information, get it to our fire marshal, process it, and get it turned around a lot faster. And that really has been a key component of that. Now, she also does our public education. When you look at the stuff we're doing at the schools, we're going to be starting our youth fire starter program, right? That's all going to be done under fire prevention. And obviously with the word prevention, that's trying to take a proactive, preventative action to keep things from happening. Because if we can stop the fire from ever happening, we don't have to respond to it, right? That's also with our fall prevention, those type of programs. If we can keep somebody from falling and breaking a hip, then that's proactive. And that's one of the big focuses of our CPR. All that kind of stuff that's on the preventative side is under fire prevention.
Just
We
real
do.
quick, you said a youth fire starter program?
Yeah, so
Can you just
youth
talk about what that is?
that start fires is getting them into a process through It's usually the schools or our, a lot of times youth fire starter is they're like this with the matches, a lighter, and they actually start something in their house. That is usually, and then mom and dad's like, oh yeah, he's been doing this for 6 months, or she's been doing it for 6 months. So the problem is if you don't have that, then it now becomes arson, right? And what they've shown is that with preventive measures and being able to get that child to the right services, that you're actually saving long-term potential. No, we go to this, we learn the process, and then we become our own program. Systems, so smoke alarms, fire alarms, those type of things. Arson investigations with the help of Chief Crum. We have partnered with his detectives, and what we do, we send them to class instead of right now to take somebody and take them from the floor to be a fire investigator is about $100,000. Right now, that's not money that I have, nor do I see it as a huge priority. When we can get people who've already been through the investigation part, teach them the fire part. We have our battalion chief, we have our staff that's there that can partner with them and say, hey, did you look at this, look at that? And it will be something that probably in the next couple of years, maybe the next budget cycle, we will look to get our own in-house investigators. So we still do that because it's required by the state fire marshal, but however, we do it through a partnership with the police department. And then I already talked about the fire setter counseling. Emergency management. This is a big piece. Obviously, we learned from Hurricane Hillary. We've talked at numerous times, the emergency operations plan, the local hazard mitigation plan. We're just about halfway through that right now. I just got the first 3 chapters of it. I'm going through it. And there's going to be some money, hopefully in the next budget year, to get this up and going. There's not only just, the plans are actually just the start. Then it's the implementation of the plans. Is staff trained? Do they know how to exercise it? Do they know where to go? Does our EOC, does it have the computers? Does it have the multimedia system? Does it have the communications? All those things that you're going to need, whether it's the big one that happens out here or another Hurricane Hillary. So
May I just ask you a quick question? Can you go back one? Yeah, that's it. So what does it mean to deactivate the EOC?
So again, activate it is...
I know I know literally what the words are, but what does that mean?
Deactivate means that it's just sitting there, dormant. So what is it, what do you do?
It doesn't mean it's no longer valid or no longer something you come back to. You're just not using it at the time.
At that time, yes.
Perfect, that's what I needed to understand, thank you.
To real quickly align, we've talked about the fire department's strategic plan and how it aligns with the council's strategic plan. That was something that I felt was very important, especially when I got here, is, hey, I need to make sure that the things that I'm doing are in line with what you want done. And so here for goal A, the committees, that was a fire department goal. Implement the cadet program, that's council goal. Develop and implement the AO Bridge program. That was both a council and a fire department. And I'm happy to say that we've actually got 4 people that have come through that program. What the ultimate goal would be is to take somebody from the cadet program. If we set it up right, you can be a kid graduating from Cathedral City High School. You can come in as a cadet and you can be the fire chief. There is that career path. Maintain staffing levels. So this is probably the biggest challenge in the fire service right now, is not only are you getting the word out there, you've got to recruit, right? And you've got to tell them, just as the council said, why are we the employer of choice? Why do they want to come? Everybody in Southern California right now is hiring people. And that's one of the things that really I've taken on personally, that we just have to focus with the help of HR and the city manager. We can put a flyer out and say we're hiring for paramedics, and we can have them in backgrounds 3 weeks later. I can tell you there's nobody who's doing that. Most of them, they get caught up in the bureaucratic system, and you're looking at 6 months. To my old agency, it's 1 year. From the time you start here to the time you start the academy, it's 1 year. So being nimble and agile to be able to adapt and be able to put conditional job offers right in front of young kids, that's what's going to give us that advantage. Implement career development plans. Do people know what they're going to do? I didn't just wake up one day and decided I wanted to be a chief. There had to be a process. There had to be a plan. For everybody who wants a plan, because I can tell you there's some people that don't. They're just happy coming to work, doing their job, and going home. What we have done is we've started, and that's part of our succession planning. And then the strategic plan, I think I told you at the budget workshop, we're done. Right? I'm not really in a hurry to do another one, but we are going to need to do one here probably within the next 6 months to a year. Again, realign, evaluate where we're at, and then step off to the next set of goals. Community investment. This was all because of you. You've bought the new engine, new truck. Just to give you an update, right now, we're looking at August to October. That's the window that we have for this year for the first pumper. And then we're looking at January to February of 26 for our truck. As I said before, they're much needed, but in order to, until we got those, is the second part, which is our fleet maintenance program. We are tracking everything. Is it a repair? Is it regular maintenance? Or is it maintenance that has come up? We've now, as part of the accreditation process, we've implemented our own internal records management system that's audited, and we're trying to track mileage. We're tracking oil changes, because instead of just one fleet of fire engines, we're actually running 2 fleets. Right? Right now we currently have 6 ambulances. We'll have a 7th. And we'll surplus some of those, but then we also have 5 engines and a water tender. So having a fleet maintenance program to where are the fluids being changed, is the radiator, all that is all part of that investing, making sure that we keep our vehicles on the road. Fiscal stability. This is one of the areas when I start talking about revenue where we've really made huge inroads, right? We've increased the insurance collectible. And as crazy as this sounds, when I got here, it was as simple as we take a picture of the insurance card, send it up to the cloud, okay, we're all done. Well, the thing about the cloud, how do we know that it's actually up there, right? So something as simple as going in, installing it, making sure that we had a light. Green means it's up there, red means it's not. We were able to increase our ambulance billing just by 20% just by doing that. So looking at those inefficiencies to make sure that we're getting everything we can. Right now, or last year we were at 3.6. This year we're looking at $4 million for our ambulance reimbursement. We just got some good news that retroactively to the last year, they bumped our revenue by 10%. So they did do it retroactive. And then I was on a call last week, and we're going to get another, I'm sorry, that was 8%. Looks like we're going to get another 10% to just keep up with inflation. So not only making sure that we track it, but that we get our fair share. Increase ambulance billing, that's the two different programs, right? There's PPG EMT, there's IGT, and that right there is the recovery that I talked about. The other thing that goes along, we'll bring in probably within the next month to 2 months as we look at our fees. I just verified it this morning. We are the cheapest ambulance transport in Southern California. If you take San Diego, Riverside, San Bernardino, Orange County, and LA County, there's nobody who does it cheaper. The downside to that is we're not capturing things that we're entitled to capture. So it's been 2012 since we've had an increase. Yeah, it's been a long time. We are, when you compare it to the, I'll say it, AMR, right? That they are double what we are. And again, we want to make sure that we're as cost effective for our residents, but we need to also make sure if Medicare is paying a certain amount and we're below that, that means we're missing out on capturing that revenue.
And Chief, how long will it take you to actually do the feasibility study for the fees?
We're ready to go. I think we're waiting for the other study to complete. If you're going to put me under the gun, I could probably have it done in 30 to 45 days. Because we've got the numbers. We literally have been working on capturing it, because as I look at it as the fire chief, I'm like, this can't be right? For instance, we charge $28 a mile. Everybody around us is charging upwards of $60 a mile. It doesn't sound like much, but when you're going 20 miles, right, it adds up times 8,000 calls, right? So I would say as of today, we're ready. We were just kind of getting in the queue to get it done. I talked to the city manager yesterday, and we're putting together that plan and getting it done.
When you look at that plan, do you look at the viability of the insurance companies as well? Are they up at that higher standard? I mean, they're probably going to want the lowest they can have to pay out, but how does that work with the?
No, they're actually higher, which is why you want it. So there's two different. There's IGT, which is intergovernmental transfer. That's Medicare, Medi-Cal. That's a fixed payer. Medicare, Medi-Cal says, we will give you this much for transport, we'll give you this much for oxygen, we'll give you this much, and that is what it is, right? You can't function. Where we're missing out is our number is in the I think 1250. Medicare is getting ready to go to 1400. If we only ask for 1250, they're only going to give us 1250. So we need to at least get it up to there, and then all the additional services. Is it an EKG? Is it oxygen? Is it miles? We need to move up to their threshold. Now the second part of that is what they call the private payer, which is Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Kaiser. They actually have more fees, and that's what I received this morning, is a list of what all those fees are. One of those fees that you can charge for is an ambulance fee. That you get that, and that's the transport. What's out there, it's not widespread, but again, it is little by little, is what they call a first responder fee. Okay, so right now, when we send an ambulance, we can charge for an ambulance. That's it. The fire engine shows up, we don't get to charge for the fire engine. Under this first responder fee, there are some insurance company, and Kaiser's probably the biggest, most well-known that does. You get to charge another $200 to at least help cover the cost of that fire engine showing up. So,
And Council, just as Chief is talking, the Finance Department is leading the fee update right now. The Fire Department fees are part of that. So as all of the departmental fees are being reviewed, the Fire Department is part of that and will be part of the report brought forward at the time that it's completed.
Innovation. I brought it in previous, is how do we get, we cannot change the time from the time we leave the fire station to the time that we get to your house, right? So our key piece is how do we use technology to get people from the time the alarm goes off, what's called a pre-announce, to where we're going. That's with our dashboard, right? Awareness is the biggest thing. Putting it in our people's right there, so they can see it. Here, this is what your numbers are. And again, it's not to take it lightly, but competition works, right? If we're doing a daily report and people are seeing that their response times are slower, hey, why are they faster? From an administration standpoint, then we can ask the question, what is going there? So having a real-time dashboard that is updated, I think it's every 3 minutes, so up to the latest call, it averages, it gives us the high, low, and we can look at what we're doing and how we're doing it. SharePoint, getting rid of the hard drives and holding stuff, be able to get things on our SharePoint file. One of the things that we went through with the accreditation is everything in one place. And we just recently had a person who handles our equipment. And when we were going through this process, I said, where's all the information? He goes, well, it's right here. Okay, well, if something happens, we can't access it up there. So just taking all these processes and procedures and putting them in one place, unfortunately that person was off, we still needed to fix the engines, everything's there in one place so that we can access it. Everything we're doing right now is data driven. You know, when I first got here, it was like, okay, the truck is over here at Station 2, should it be at Station 1? It was a guess, right? We didn't have the heat maps. Now, why we're moving the 4th ambulance, why is it going to 2? Because 40% of our calls are within a 1 mile radius of Station 2. We know that's where the busiest call volume is. If at a later date we're get more information or have more data, we can go, okay, now we need to move that. That makes us more agile, number one, and number two, it really makes us more attentive to what the patient needs. What do our residents need? Where are the fires? Part of the accreditation process. We may be moving our truck. We're evaluating that right now because there's more residents or buildings that are 30 feet or higher. Well, if we've got more in this area, then that's where that apparatus should go. So really using data to drive our decisions on how we set the fire department up is key. I talked about the fall prevention program. That is a partnership in collaboration with Desert Regional Medical Center. Because again, we're running out of beds. Anybody who knows hospitals are billions of dollars and 10 years to build. We're not building a whole lot more. So they have a vested interest in reducing people who come in the back door and reduce those beds for the more critical. Not to say that a broken hip's not critical, but it's not as critical as a stroke or a heart attack. So looking at those partnerships. And then finally, the community risk reduction. That's those other programs that we're doing like disaster preparedness, CERT, and those type of programs.
Chief, are you also partnering with the senior center regarding the fall prevention?
So we do workshops. We do our lectures to their audience. However, they don't have any subject matter. It's our people from bringing the paramedic side. It's Desert Hospital bringing the nurse and the medical side. But we do use their facilities and we do present to their residents and their visitors throughout the day.
And do we still have our frequent, you can say, callers when it comes to I fall and I can't get up?
Yes, and that's going to, I will tell you, every jurisdiction has that. We've got to now have a threshold. Once I think it's 4 times that we go, we will reach out for services through the county, see if there's social services or anything. We now have a process that facilitates that transfer of information.
Thank you.
So Chief, I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
I just had a quick question, and it was about the emergency preparedness or fall prevention. You said you partnered with Desert Regional, so I'm assuming Desert Regional has the curriculum for the fall preparedness, or does your department write the curriculum?
Yeah, it's a joint curriculum,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So what we share with the residents is statistics, right? How to not be a statistic, number one. Number two, if you are, what does that mean, right? You've probably heard, if you fall and break your hip over the age of 60, there's a 40% chance that you don't make it more than 1 year, right? And
Great.
well, again, I mean, those, I hate to say it, those are the harsh realities of that. So what are the things, if you're not doing things to counter that,
Right.
then you start to become a statistic. So that's really kind of the why, right? And then Desert will come in and talk about how how do you counter that? What are the exercises?
And the idea behind my question was that there's consistency, so we do it, there's a presentation for the senior center, and the people get the same consistent information there as they would over at, Dave Pond Country Club
Yeah.
if you're doing, okay.
Yeah,
that's my question.
so to answer that question quickly, we have one set curriculum.
Okay.
Only our people teach it, only 2 nurses on their side teach it, so it's set.
Okay, on that same topic, so I understand why you put 2 where you have it, because it's in the middle of a really dense neighborhood, right? Just lots and lots of people. I kind of think the same thing about the senior center. So is this a lost or a missed opportunity not to come in hard with more program? Hard sounds like we're going to go abuse people, but you know what I'm saying? You come in aggressively with more opportunities for them to learn what to do if there's a fire, to learn what to do if there's a heart attack, to learn how to take care of a broken leg until you can get there. Do you offer any of those, or is it beyond a potential and actually an accurate futuristic plan?
No. Yes, we offer. No, there isn't limitation. So right now, we just added one with the approval of the grant, I think a couple months ago. So what our entry point is disaster preparedness. That's just kind of get prepared for whatever. And out of that, we talk about what is preparation. So we start with disaster, but then there's CPR. They're stopping the bleed. If you have a family member, I think it's, again, over 60, unfortunately, who's on Coumadin, there's a 20% chance that if they cut themselves, they're going to bleed to death. So we do stop the bleed. That is also tied into disaster preparedness, which is tied into CERT, right? And so all those, we can only do obviously one at a time, but if we do, historically we do 3 disaster preparedness, 2 stop the bleeds, 2 CPRs. We've now added the car seat safety. So most of the things we're talking about are more a more mature audience, right? The car seat safety on the 22nd of this month, part of our grant, we're going to be giving out 30 car seats. So we'll bring a parent in, show them how to install it, and give them a free car seat as part of that. So the risk, if you will, risk reduction, is about trying to provide as many of those services. And then it's partnering with the HOA, partnering with the senior center. I think I talked at the budget presentation where we are now looking by district to make sure that we're reaching out by district and making sure that each of the council district is being represented and we at least have a contact. We are now building, our contact list is actually getting more robust. And then what the ultimate goal is steering all those people to CERT. In the fall, we had our first CERT program. We got that grant, so we got new equipment, got people what they call the backpacks and stuff we need for that, and now that's getting rolled out.
How many people were certified?
For that one, it was 12. So what the goal is to get all these different people and feed them to the CERT program.
Good luck.
So goal E, safety, just making everything safe. I talked about the OTS grant for car seat. That was a fire department goal. Sound the alarm. I think you were there, Mayor, last year when we did I think it was almost 500, like 489 smoke alarms. That was a council goal to be involved and make the community safer. Again, we've already talked about the LHMP and EOP. The wellness and fitness program, we're out to RFP. That's taking care of our own. That's making sure when we start talking about being the employer of choice, part of that is taking care of your people. And that program is not only are we rolling it out, but we're looking at making a long-term commitment to our employees. Again, tied in with the wellness. When I got here, we didn't have gyms in our stations. We now have one at every fire station. And we've talked about the disaster preparedness, the CERT classes, the fall prevention. There on the bottom is everything that we've talked about. The other thing that I forgot to add is we are now an American Heart Association certifying agency. So we can, the little card that says I'm American Heart Association CPR certified and first aid, we now provide that. So we can provide that, and our goal would be to provide that to the community. And there's a small nominal fee. I think it's $15 a card. Again, we'll look at that. We can either get it reimbursed from them, but that is literally a life-saving skill. And we want to get that out to as many people out in the community as we can. Embracing inclusiveness. So one of our favorite events is the pancake breakfast. This past year we did boots, brews, and chews. Again, donuts, get people, show them what we're doing, show them what I call their fire station. Let them have a vested. So the more ownership that we can provide so they understand, now they start to feel like we are their fire department. We're not just this group of men and women that kind of sit over here behind closed doors. The holiday posada event that we did with Supervisor Perez. The last number I had heard, over 700 toys that were given out. The trunk or treat with the Boys and Girls Club that go shopping with the kids there. The touch a truck, we did at the fire station where they got trash trucks, dump trucks, right? The big thing for those is not only getting involved in the community, but letting people know in a non-stressful time, hi, my name's Mike, how are you, right? And letting them build those relationships before they become a problem, or you're calling when they're all amped up and they're stressed. You're building that relationship and building that level of trust.
Who doesn't love a truck? All ages.
Everybody.
All ages.
But we were in the Cathedral City High School homecoming. We did an ice cream social, and then the Fields of Valor event. So really getting out there into the community and letting people know, saying, we are your fire department, right?
And the bed race.
And that is, you're right, that is.
Day after tomorrow and last year.
Police department said.
Council member, please, Chief Crum still having PTSD. We don't want to talk about that.
He said something about maybe you were too afraid to do it this year. So.
He can always hope.
I think what he said was he wasn't up to it. I believe that was what he said. Something like that.
A few days.
So that's what we've done over the last 2 years. The next 2 years, what do we do? How do we build on that? Like I said in the beginning, that's the foundation. So in my opinion, that's what the fire department is. That's what the council wants. That's what the citizens wants. That's the foundation we're now going to build. Still in a lot of the same areas and still aligning with the council's goals. So continue the community risk reduction programs, making sure that the public has access to that. Fully train new and existing fire department personnel to a minimum standard. That is the one thing that our accreditation did and our ISO rating is doing. Standards. And it's when you say that word, it makes people nervous because it means you're going to hold them to that level. In order to hold them, we got to get them to that level. Right now, as of today, 70% of our rank and file, everybody who's on the floor, has less than 3 years either with the department or 3 years or less in their new rank. So that person may have been here for 8 years, but they've only been a captain for 1. There's a whole another set of skills and knowledge that has to go with it, right? You go from a doer to now I have to supervise and be a teller, right? I have to train. And that is a big part of this budget. And then taking that to the next level, and what are those specialties? As the council has said, we need to be prepared for the next one. This department rescue training is exactly that. It's building those resources inside the city. Over the last month and a half, we've had 2 hazardous materials incident. One was not too far from here. It was an illegal extraction, and we ended up having to wait, I think it was about 2.5 hours for the hazmat team, because the hazmat team comes from Winchester. And if it's a Friday night, you know what that drive looks like to get here. So this would start that process. We've talked about the 10 freeway. We've talked about the Union Pacific Railroad. We have to start having those resources here. If nothing else, to tell us, okay, we need to evacuate, right? That cloud is this. We have to do monitoring. We have to do testing. The next one is the rope rescue. So if we look at Hurricane Hillary, getting our people out. Right? Are we safe? Are we part of the deep debris flow? So what are those skills that they have to do? Swift water, I think that's self-explanatory. And then department safety officer. We only had a few recommendations come out of the accreditation, but that was one of them. Is what are the things do we have in-house? The city has a risk manager and looks at safety and things like that. But what does the department have? What are those things to where you can do root cause analysis? How are you evaluating at-work injuries? And so basically those three are the first half, and then the second half is Measure W, getting that implemented. One thing I heard from the council at the budget workshop was, hey, when are we going to get this thing implemented? Myself and my staff, we have been actively working. One of the things that I'll be coming to you next week is because of the time that for Chief Crum and his public safety dispatchers and also the firefighter paramedics is once we get them under contract, our conditional job offer, you're still looking at 45 days to get them. So if we wait until July 1, we're looking at probably we won't have that person on the floor until August or September. So while we're moving that forward, it still takes time. And if we're looking to get it implemented by July 1, we're going to have to take some proactive steps. The council has given us the ambulance, or the authorization to purchase the ambulance. We bought some of the equipment. We've started the recruiting process. We're working through that right now. And then we're going to need to do another bunch. There'll be some promotions that will come out of it, and then another set of recruitments. So the Measure W is going to take the greater part of the next 4 to 5 months to be able to have it meet your deadline by July 1. Re-implement EMD, right? Are we sending the right person to the right call with the right resources? Unfortunately, we had the budget, we lost some staffing in PD, so we had to stop that. We're coming up on the 2-year anniversary. I've already talked to the council. We've got to go through a whole licensing process. So to be up and going by July 1, we're already starting that whole process. And then finally, the ISO, obtain ISO rating of 2. So what does that really mean, right? It's just like the accreditation, it's a standard, right? And it's best practices. And it goes from 1 to 10. 1 is the best, 10 is the worst. And if you look at what does that get you, it says that there's a certain level of water supply, certain level of manpower, apparatus, pump capacity, all those things that help you put fire out. So ISO is more on the fire side best practices. Accreditation is kind of the department and EMS best practices. So getting that completely done, and we have started to initiate that process. So what does this mean when we look at the areas that we're really going to focus on? We've talked about the aging fleet. We're spending more money than we ever have to keep our units running. They're older. As soon as we get our engine and truck, these numbers should come way down because for the first 3 years, all our equipment's in warranty, right? And so we're going to put some money there because of the extra added ambulances. That routine maintenance is part of our fleet maintenance program. We're going to put some money there. The radio communications, again, thanks to you, you authorized the PSEC. There's fees that come with that. Tab of command, that is one of the things I'm probably the most excited about when you look at, again, I'll try to summarize it real quick. It allows us to see where a unit's at and have the closest unit. Right now, if you're sitting at Station 2 in the middle of the city and this is your address, we send it because we show on a map that that's the closest. It doesn't take into account that engine 2 or engine 3 is going right by it. With tab of command, it's what they call like a real-time CAD. So we can see where everybody is based on AVL, and we can send the closest unit to that call. And also is going to help us with our mutual aid partners, right? If Palm Springs AMR is busy and they need an ambulance and we're available, we can provide that service to our neighboring jurisdictions.
A quick question. Regarding fleet maintenance and operations, now who does the maintenance when it comes to maintenance and also repairs? Do we have an in-house mechanic or do we contract with somebody? How does that work?
Yeah, so we do not have an in-house person. We have an in-house coordinator. That's the person that, if it's broken, and we got away from that single point of failure, so now we have a couple people. So so far it's worked out that that person, so engine breaks down, battalion chief calls that person, he gets online, calls the vendor. They have ways to troubleshoot it, like is this a short-term, long-term? The other day we broke a radiator hose. We had a spare one, we changed it, and put new fluid in, and we were good to go. But it's the vendor for us, because our fleet is a Pierce apparatus. It's called Infleet. It's in Corona, and it's a combination of they'll send a mobile unit based on what we tell them. Then sometimes we've had to tow it in, and then they do it if it's a bigger fix, they have to do it at the facility in Corona.
Okay, thank you.
Again, I've talked about training, and personal development. With that large number, I talked about 70% right now. Come July 1, that number is going to be going, I think it's closer to 78%, right? So when you think about that, you've got 22% of your workforce that has done 3 years, and 3 years is kind of the threshold where, I'm not going to say the learning curve's over, but okay, now you've kind of stepped off. So that, you look at that number of people, that's a lot of young people that we need to get to training. So this area is really about conferences, meetings, different trainings, workshops. Some of it we can do here, some that we send people to. The airfare, hotel, all the things that go with travel and sending people to training. And then why do we want to do that? Because what happens if we only stick in Cathedral City, well, then that's all we're going to know. We need to get out. One of the things for our training cadre that I've talked to them about, there's a big instructors conference in Indianapolis. It's been going on for 30 years. Well, you get people all throughout the country, and they're able to ask those questions and bring that knowledge to here, and then put it into play. That's, in my mind, in my opinion, that's what keeps us on the cutting edge. That's what makes us an ISO 2 and a fully accredited agency, because you're constantly looking in that CQI, constant quality improvement, and always looking at everything you do. Technology and communications, part of the tablet command that I talked about, it's a tablet. So we got to buy a new tablet, it's iPads, cell connections. It's a good chunk of money because everything's working off of electronic. New computers, we looking at admin staff. When we looked at our computers, the majority of the fire department computers are outside of that 3-year window. Looking at other things that we can do to be more efficient in our office processes. And again, that's more communication systems. We'll put some stuff in the EOC. That's one of the things that we're looking at. There's a lot of things in that EOC that are outdated.
And the software you're going to need, sometimes software is a dime and sometimes it's $1 million. Where do you fall?
No, so that is the one thing, I try to stay out of software. I usually try to let IT handle it. Specifically within our contract with Tablet, it's a 2-year contract. Right now, they kind of have the market cornered, but it is a fixed cost for that. They've been around for 12, 14 years, and they haven't had, that's one of the asks. So how do I know I'm going to get into this 2-year contract, and in 3 years, you're going to bump it by 25% or something like that? They shared their history. Again, can I guarantee you it's not going to happen? I can't. But based on their track record, we haven't seen it. And they probably run, of the tablets out there that are specifically for this function, they have probably 80 to 85% of the market.
And is the software one program for all of the pieces, or does each piece need its own licensing?
No, so you license it for your system, which it does include, and I think our number is, it's 15 iPads, and then there's a cost
That doesn't
if you add each one. Uniforms, because we've got the Measure W, it's new uniforms, new safety gears. This specifically, looking at if you remember when I brought the community risk reduction, at that time I said, okay, I'll absorb the cost. Now as these programs start to expand, we still got to pay our people to go. That's what those monies are for. Ensure that our properly equipped. One of the things that we have to do with all our safety gear now is that annual third-party testing. So we don't have a choice. We can wash it, we have the extractor, we can do all that. Now we're over here, the state mandates that we do it this way. So when we already looking at it, right, I always tell my firefighters that if this is your money, would you spend it this way, right? And that's kind of my mindset when I look at it. Everything's increasing, right? Everybody wants this, wants that. Where's that balance? And I can tell you with the budget that I've provided, with the new bodies, with the expansion of the ambulance program, we are looking at analyzing and making sure that everything we need, we actually need. And, you know, if the council sees it that way, great. If not, then we'll adjust where needed. The other thing is that our investment in all this aligns with what the council's goals are and aligns with, you know, a big portion of this is Measure W, right? And getting that up and going. And then looking at the training. When you're looking at, are you going to put that in your people? That is an investment. We've lost a lot of experience over the last 5 years, even before I was here. It's a reinvestment, getting those people up and going so that they can serve long after probably any of us are here. So looking at revenue and where does it come from? In 21-22, the CSG contracting, they did the majority of our fire prevention work. We have now moved that over with our fire marshal, and you can see that number is going down in red. And then based, now that we've got everything automated and our inspection program, some of that is both our firefighters are doing inspections, we have our inspector, and then we have our fire marshal that's doing fees. Those are projections on what we've seen so far this year. And again, it's the best guess on what we've done looking forward. So when you look at fire department staffing, right? Not only looking at the people, but what is that getting us? And so the first part is, we've talked about the admin staff. Since 2013-14, it's been the same admin, same 3 people. There's been no increase. But then if you go down to the bottom, you've seen a 59% increase in 911 and 73% increase in unit responses. So with all that response creates more administrative work. And so that's one of the areas we're looking to expand. Same thing with EMS, with the expansion of the ambulance system, of the billing, and all those things that we get revenue from, we need something. You can see there within the command staff, there's been very little increase. Personnel, that's the 6 for Measure W, and then back before I got here, it was the ambulance operators. So again, these are roughly what we're looking at as far as number of personnel, and we've got to make that adjustment. If we're going to take the increased calls and we're going to have the increased revenue, we need the increased support. So here we go. This is kind of where we are. That's the slide that I showed you at the beginning. This is what it would look like with those positions. The upper left, that's all EMS. So one of the things that we're also looking is to expand our input from our medical director. We have more paramedics, we have more EMTs, and with that more, we have to make sure that not only the type of training, but the quality of training. And so that's why we're looking at bringing our medical director to kind of oversee everything. We're already required to have a medical director just to say he's our medical director. But in this case, we would actually be using him to provide training. The second part is because if you look at the lower left, the quality assurance and EMS coordinator, they have different roles. One is more of an education, making sure we have to audit our own calls, making sure that the treatment that we provide that person, whether it be a drug dosage, oxygen, a treatment guideline, whatever it may be, that we're doing it according to the county guidelines, right? And 8 months, probably a year ago now, the captain that was overseeing this was saying, I can't keep up with this. And so that was where we were kind of putting that together, what's the plan, and then an office assistant, there's many different things. Our newsletter, the website, billing, social media, keeping people aware. All those, I would say, basic tasks, we need help. As the department grows, we need help with that. Measure W, again, the majority of these are one-time. You already know about the ambulance, the gurney. The obvious thing that jumps out here, there's nothing in here that's $500, right? The majority of it is our large ticket items, uniforms, turnouts, the PPE that we wear, just the overtime in those additional bodies, standardized training. So the money we're making sure that these young kids that are coming, I shouldn't say young kids, young men, making sure that we get them trained in a timely fashion. Because if we wait too long, if we wait 2 to 3 years, then we lose our window. What? I'm going to have a surprise for you here, sir. But I don't want to let it out yet.
In our unisex department,
We are.
that's it. That's one.
But they're ambulance operators, they're not firewall, but we will have, actually, I'm not going to ruin the surprise. Facility upgrades, right? We have more bodies in the same fire station. We've got to make accommodations for that and make sure that we're EEOC compliant.
They're gender neutral there.
So personnel requests, 6 firefighters, add administrative staff, EMSBC/admin, and then the office admin. What's that budget increase? What's that look like? You can see the numbers there. These were provided by finance. So I'm sure Kevin's back here. He's keeping his eye on me. So when you break that down, what does that mean? And I've talked multiple times over the last year, is what is the net impact to the general fund? If you go to revenue back in 2021-22, it was 2.7. At the end of this budget, and I can say this conservative, we're looking at 5 million, if not more, right? You add another 10% that we're supposed to get the fees increase, you get the increase from Medicare, you get some fees increase, that number could very easily be $6 million. So when you look at the impact to the general, we are absolutely asking for more money, more budget to be able to manage this program, but we're also putting good chunks of money back in. It's one of probably, as the fire chief, it's the thing that probably I would say my staff probably hates the most, is every Monday I'm looking, hey, what are the numbers? What's our collectible percentages, right? What are all those things that contribute to us getting the maximum amount of money back?
So where you have blanks here, that's because we haven't gotten that far in our budget books.
Correct.
This kind of thing, so.
We tried to guesstimate, but Kevin wouldn't allow me to. He said, we don't have those numbers yet, so take them out.
Well, yeah, you don't want to put, because it's probably going to be sticker shock, and so we might as well just be shocked all the time, but at least you're warning us.
We'll send out an EMR to take care of it.
So when you,
I do want to, if you can go back to that slide, I think that Chief Contreras makes an important thing here, because yes, the costs have gone up. We have additional personnel, we have more training for them, we have them better equipped, but also correspondingly, the revenue that the department produces has gone up as well. And I think that's an important consideration. And like he mentioned at the very beginning, some of the stuff was so easy to make sure that we were submitting the insurance cards correctly and following up on that, to make sure that we were getting not things that weren't due to us, but we were getting what revenue was due to us. So, that does help offset some of the impact of the expenditure side.
And Charlie, do you have an estimate as to when the fee study is going to be initiated?
Well, they're working on it right now. This also included, remember we were looking at the arts fund contributions, the undergrounding fee, and there was one other one, which now I can't remember. And then along with that is the fire department fees, which we haven't looked at the ambulance fees. The general plan check and things like that was part of the general study, but the ambulance transport fees haven't been reviewed since 2012. And again, it's not just to put us equal to other cities or anything like that, because we have to show what our costs actually are, because we can't charge more than what our costs are.
And councilmember staff have already started those meetings. The finance department has initiated those discussions with the departments. So the departments have sat down with our consultant to walk through what their, kind of all the fees are, where they're at right now, any proposed changes. They've been given a short time frame, like within the next week or so. The departments are to have that data back to the consultants so that they can kind of work that out. And so it is actively in process right now.
And estimated time of completion?
I'm going to look at Kevin.
April. We will come to you twice in April. April 1st meeting study session, April 2nd meeting for adoption to implement July 1st.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the reason my colleague is asking and that we're all interested in this is because when you share that, say that like these fees haven't been updated since 2012, this is very reminiscent of other fees in the city, and some of those studies took a long time. They took years, and then it seemed like there wasn't necessarily an urgency, at least by some staff, to get that moved along. Yet, once we were able to do it, we're able to get them in, then we're able to afford to actually provide the personnel into those departments, and high-quality personnel, and I think staff has done a good job of making sure that they're filled with very qualified individuals and that they're getting the adequate training. So it's very reminiscent of that when we're hearing that you have excellent plans, and I think we're all supportive of that, but we're shooting ourselves in the foot by making it very difficult for us to be able to afford to do that by continuing to charge the fees that are unreasonably low. It's nice to be able to go out and say, oh, if you need to use the ambulance in Cathedral City, we're cheaper than anyone, we're high quality and cheaper than anybody else. And that sounds really nice, and we can pat ourselves on the back. But what we realize when we come here is, well, wait a second, we're trying to struggle to make sure that we can finance this high quality department, and we're not recovering the costs that we should be recovering, which means that general fund money is more of it's being used to at least take us to where we are now, and that's money that, again, should, I'm not going to say could, I'm going to say should be being used for something else that is also a need for the community. So I appreciate you asking and trying to pin that down, and because I could tell, I'm feeling the same thing, is I hope this isn't going to be another couple of years where we're trying to find money to finance these improvements, and yet we're just leaving this.
I can assure you, I can tell you, we have been working for the last 2 weeks. Obviously, budget prep this time of year is a big deal. I was shocked, as I'm scrolling down the spreadsheet going, most of them for just the transport piece, nothing else, is $14.50, something like that. And we were the only ones that were in the 12s. Right, and then our oxygen is half of what our mileage is half of what, right? So when you add it up, instead of a total bill of $2,000, we're now looking $2,500 plus, right?
But those costs to your department are not necessarily cheaper.
They're not
so it's
half.
getting absorbed somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
And piggyback on his question also, or comment, is that even though we can only charge what we provide and what the cost is, we are also limiting on what we can do because we are not charging enough. If we can hire someone that is worth a lot more money or provide better equipment, well, we're limiting ourselves because what we have is a much lesser cost. Correct?
Yeah. If you want to, again, in medicine, technology matters, right? And if you're not capturing, right, everybody's fighting for the same dollar. And I tried to tell, my paramedics that, hey, if we don't capture this, then that's lost money. So when we need stuff over here, then technically are we providing lesser care? I can tell you we're not, but it's because the council has really allowed us to stay on the cutting edge. So our part is we've got to make sure that the funds are there. So if they're going to give $1,400, and that's what our costs are, we need to be able to charge $1,400.
We will be able to justify that cost?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good to hear that you preach that, because it's not necessarily even in the fire department. If they're not recovering all of the, keeping track enough to be able to recover what you're spending, it's not free, it's coming out of another pot. So when they go over that pothole as they're driving along, well, maybe if they captured enough money, then we would be able to.
And that goes back to.
It's shared by everybody.
Yeah,
Even though we
and.
prioritize the public safety departments, if you don't recover the revenue that you can there, then that technically shorts other departments.
I was going to say, and what are those costs, right? Everything's a cost, right? Oh, I'm going to take this and, we don't need that. Well, what's the cost to that? Because you may not use it on the patient, but if you just throw it away, there's a cost to it, right? And I will tell you that, you talk about culture, you talk about mindset, it's getting our people to understand it's not free. Somebody's paying for it, and we have to tie it to something, right? We shouldn't be wasting anything, right? So, and I'm not saying that our people are, I'm just saying it's understanding that within this chain, from when the time they call 911 till you drop them off at the hospital, there's certain things that need to happen, and each one of those things has a cost. I met with, it's probably been a month and a half ago, but what we're trying to do, and knowing that this fees study was coming, was, okay, a heart attack. Somebody's having a heart attack. What are the things we use? What's that bundle? A stroke. We know that fall is our number one. Number two is chest pain. I think number three is stroke. So if we know those are our three, then what are the fixed costs? We know that every time we go, we're going to do this gurney sheet. Okay, well, what's the cost of that gurney? Okay, so there we go. That's $8. And because it says healthcare, it's double whatever you would have got at Big Lots. And then trying to build those bundles. And that's why we got with with Whitman, our biller, is trying to get them, because they bill all throughout the United States, right? And one of the things in healthcare we're looking at is California tends to do it one way, Nevada does it another way, New Mexico does it, right? Everybody does it a little, well, they bill for all of them. And that's this first responder fee, this $250, where we found out, hey, Nevada's charging like $400 for a first responder. Okay, how do we get some of that? And so I think in one of the weeklies, I went to ambulance administrator school. I spent 2 weeks and learned all about. When you understand the system, then you can figure what questions to ask. And so we're constantly looking at what those are. And again, I would say we're ready. We just need to put all the X's and O's together.
And Chief, one more question. Now, looking at this chart, where does it fall of monies that are refunded or paid to us from firefighters that go assist other departments, for instance, the LA fires or forest fires? Where is that?
That's in that revenue. So within that revenue, and correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, it's included. So these fee or revenues includes ambulance, mutual aid reimbursement. What's the third one?
Payroll cost reimbursements and fire pledge.
What is it?
And fire pledge.
Oh, and fire plans. So these fees make up those three.
That's the revenue projected?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And again, projected is more for 25, 26, 26, 27. The 21 through 25, those were the actual revenue costs.
Okay.
Councilmember, anything from you guys on the ends? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay? So again, this is another way, and what we really wanted to take away here is we are analyzing. We have an analyst that you guys provided to us, and we're looking at our response. I think the key thing is, and I asked him to double check these figures, when you look at the cost per 911 call, we're not seeing that huge increase, right? So we're still looking at what we're doing. That's the number of 911 calls versus what we reimburse. We're getting more reimbursement, so that average call, so from 21 to what we're projecting for 26, 27, we're only seeing a $69 increase per 911 call. And so that's, again, we look at many different metrics and saying, okay, is it make sense with this metric? Does it make sense with that metric. And then you can see cost per unit response is actually down a little bit, right? And that's, again, back to reimbursement compared to the number of responses. So what does that get you as the council? You've got a lot of tough decisions to make. Why this? And I will tell you, at the end of the day, this is what it gets you. Increased ambulance service. Residents in Cathedral City get to the hospital faster than other people in Coachella Valley. You still have the Cove and those that they have their ambulance, but I can tell you our people get to the hospital because our ambulances are available. Medic 4 will allow that and give us even more depth in that. The Community Risk Reduction Program. Unfortunately, you got to invest now to start to see dividends in 2 to 3 years. You're not going to see them right away, but it is, what we should see with everything we're doing. We should see a leveling out of calls. What I would expect, we're going to see probably one more increase because of Medic 4, and then we'll start to see the benefit of EMD, of the community risk reduction. We're going to see those lifestyle things, and then we should see a little flatten out. And it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 years to see that. One complete year to 3 years, because again, 1 year's worth of data, you have nothing to compare it to because you're going apples to oranges. Decreased response times, highly trained firefighters. Like I said, the hazmat, the technical rescue. If there's the big one, or when there's the big one, or there's a train derailment, all that kind of stuff, we want to be able to be prepared. We did get lucky. Palm Springs people were available, and we were able to use their swift water rescue team. But if they were stuck in Palm Springs, we would have had nobody to rescue those people on Date Palm and out of the house. So it is an investment in the what if, when that next one comes. A more prepared firefighter for disaster and complex calls, right? You guys have lived here for many years. The desert can be unforgiving. Having these multi-response teams will definitely help. A more cost-efficient fire department. Well, yes, costs are still going up. We are analyzing and looking at everything we're doing, and that the key metric showed that when you compare over a period of time, our costs aren't going up, and it's because we're bringing more revenue in. And finally, the thing I do take pride in, right, the accreditation and Class 2. And again, I say this because we will be the only one in Coachella Valley. We'll be one of 3 in Riverside County and 1 in 7 fire departments in Southern California. And that includes LA, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, and San Diego that have both those designations. So that puts us in and I look at that from a recruiting standpoint. Who doesn't want to be the best, right? And it's not Mike Contreras or the council or the city manager saying we're the best. It's a third party. ISO is a third party that comes in and looks at what we do and says, yes, you're this level. CPSE is a third party that came in, looked through everything we did and said, yes, you're getting this. So it is a standard, it is a high standard, right? But I do believe that is what the council and what the city manager have tasked me with, and with that, I'll take your questions.
Council members?
I have an additional question. Now, when you have an ambulance on standby, you can say, at the hospital, we will have 3 others. Then they're being held until they get a bed. Now, we have another ambulance that heads over to the hospital. Now we have 2 on hold. Can the first one take care of the patients of the second one, and can that one leave?
Yes, so what that's called is wall time. But there are certain triggers. We can't just have them go over and say, hey, we want to leave this person's going to take 2. It would depend on the unit. Do we have 2 paramedics on it, or is it 1? And then we have to because once we roll into the hospital, it's their pay, right? Even though they haven't taken possession, we're on their property. So there's some designations, and it's called wall time bypass. And if you spend a certain amount on the time, then it triggers our ability to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Carvalho?
Thank you, Chief. Getting back on Measure W and the new ambulance. So what's that going to be, 3 years before we get that?
No, May of next year. May of 26 is the delivery date.
Ordered it a while ago.
Okay, because from what I understood, it takes 3 years to get ambulance.
It did.
So it's been ordered for a while now?
Yeah, I might have entered into an agreement, kind of anticipating, it wasn't a binding one, but I put us in the queue back May of last year. And again, I
Okay.
did my research and said, hey, we need this. The other thing is we jumped a few spots because
Okay.
some people had dropped out. So
Oh, okay.
as of November, the time was May of 26.
Okay, because the 6 firefighters would be hired for this position too, so.
Correct.
You got to coordinate the ambulance and the firefighters all at one time.
And
Well,
we do have.
we have a
release-
reserve ambulance that we'll use before that one gets here to put the
Oh, we
fourth
do.
in place.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
that's-
so we have 2 reserves that are at Station 2. Again, they're beat up, but that, our goal is Medic 4 is really that last. So it's we're not gonna have the miles that we have on our other ones, but it is there kind of, it's that final one. I think at one of the council presentations, when we looked at how many times in the last year were all 3 medic units busy and we had another call. That was 173 times.
Okay.
Right? And so when you take that and then look at, is there potential for mutual aid? I feel very comfortably, we're going to be in the 250 to 300. I've talked to AMR, I've talked to Palm Springs. If we're available, and we're going to have, it's not like, hey, all 3 of our units out and we're going to send our other ambulance to Palm Springs. That's not what it is. But if we've got, let's say 1 out and we have 3 available, then we'll look to provide that for them. Because again, where we ultimately want to get, and this will take a couple years worth of data, is we want to get true automatic aid, which is what they call boundary drop. Who is the closest person? In order to do that, it's got to be like resource for like resource. They don't have ambulances, so we would then have to authorize going that way because they have nothing that comes this way.
Okay. And then, with all the growth in the United States, I go to cities, they're just growing, population getting bigger. What's the word on the street as being able to hire the firefighters? Do we have an overflow of them? Is it tough hiring?
There is not an overflow. Right now, there was just I think KSQ did a segment probably 2 weeks ago. It's a national shortage. So
Okay.
one of the things, I'm on the board of COD, I go to different, I gave the 3 people that we hired, we gave job offers to. I went and did a presentation, and the thing that you have to understand about this generation, in my generation was, hey, are you going to give me a paycheck? Where do I sign? I'm in. These people are being very selective, right? There's one that has a job offer, is not done with paramedic school, but specifically said, I'm looking for people like me. I'm looking for people with values like me. They were from Santa Ana, and obviously Santa Ana doesn't have their own fire department, and so she was looking for a Hispanic population. And I think I just let the cat out of the bag. But it was specific, she was looking for a place like this.
Great. And then we have 9 ambulance operators now, is that what it says?
Yes, sir.
Have we been able to maintain them all? Have we lost any?
That is not a job that is in short supply. Labor for the AOs, and because right now we've given 4 ambulance operators jobs as firefighters. When it comes to that, people want, and HR, I might be off a couple, but I think we opened it for 2 days and we had 95 applicants.
Okay. And then we also offer a service if someone calls up and says, I need a ride to the hospital, we would send an ambulance there? Do we do anything like that?
No, it's
It would have to be an emergency only?
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
And I hate to say this, but they know what to say.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
if they're looking at that. That may be, when we look at EMD, there are agencies, when you get to a certain call volume, they offer, and there are grants and social services for this, that you get them an Uber ride. There are people, but there's a certain level of liability. We've got to have more data to decide whether that's really a thing, whether we can do it or not.
Okay. And then I was really impressed with Battalion Chief Williams, Robert Williams. He saw me out in front of the restaurant, and he stopped by, came back, and he mentioned he wanted to get more involved at Day Palm Country Club, wanted to start coming to the meetings, more meetings, want to get on our mailing list, so how he can get more interactive in there. So I gave him some, I'm sending him some numbers of people that do all the social networking there. So I was really impressed with him reaching out to me. Most of the time we're going out and asking for you guys to join us, but that was very impressive.
He was impressive in helping with Measure W.
You're absolutely right.
He never missed a meeting.
You're absolutely right,
No,
Mayor.
one of the things to tie into
on
that,
his own time.
we just created a newsletter. So I've taken the weeklies that you guys get every week, and we've made them into monthlies. We are going to start getting those. We've started to collect from homeowners associations, different community groups, and start to get that out. That's one of the ways in talking to them. So we can get in, if we can get in their inbox, they're more likely to go, okay, I'm going to go to this. So it's looking for ways, and obviously one-on-one, Robert going out there and saying, I can do this. That's best case scenario, right? But looking for ways to capture that community engagement.
That was really great. I'm just going to finish, Mayor, by saying, in the wake of Los Angeles, what happened there was just mind-blowing. We can never be ready enough. And what you're doing, and look what you've done in the past and what you're doing in the future, I think Cathedral City should be very honored of this fire department for protective of what we're doing and what we're going to be doing in the future, because we don't want to see anything that happen like that could happen here in a mobile home park or in a area that's high density. So being proactive, Chief, I'm very excited. Thank you.
We're not taking you into financial budget rendering.
Okay.
You can have whatever you want, and then we'll give you a 20% increase.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Do you have anything?
I do. And thank you so much for this presentation. On Appendix 2, you did a SWOT analysis, and I love that. My old stomping ground way to talk. But you listed 7 threats to the Cathedral City Fire and EMS. Out of those 7 that are on there, and you can go back to the screen, what would be your top 2? And do you want me to repeat them? Read them from here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it says, first, meeting ISO and accreditation requirements, economic threats to local economy, cannabis saturation, economic threat, competing for qualified employees, increased call volume and requests for service, aging facilities, and employee retention. For me, when I worked on this in different projects, I always tried to figure that, estimate the top 2 realistically, what I could get to first. So of those, what would be the top?
It's going to be people. It's going to be, it's not only getting them here, but how do we keep them here? Because everybody's looking at, okay, like I said, when I presented to Moreno Valley College, they're paramedics. That's where 2 of the 3 that we made job offers to, that's where they came from. And when I asked them, okay, list your top 5. Like I said, for me it was money. When I got hired, hey, am I going to get a paycheck? And do I get benefits? And if you don't want to give me benefits right now, you can give them to me in 90 days because I'm single. For these kids, they're looking for culture. They're looking for fit. The days of, hey, do what I tell you to do because I tell you to do it, those days are over. So it's not only getting them, because it's a very competitive market. We're competing with Carlsbad, we're competing with Newport Beach, we're competing with Santa Monica, right? Those small to medium-sized departments. So if they want culture, pay is the thing, but based on my quick survey, it was number 3 on their list. So everything tied to people, and that's the exciting thing, right? Our AO2 firefighter program, we're sponsoring local kids, because if they're local kids, if they live in the Coachella Valley, they're not going to Newport. They want to, the gentleman we just hired, Andres Vilas, he lives, I think, in Indio. He's not going up the road. He's not going to go to Cal Fire. He's not going to go to Riverside City. He's not going to go to Murrieta. He wants to live and work in his community, right? And so I think, number 1, expanding what and COD is just getting started. And we're partnering with the college, with the Fire Academy program. They're trying to make it better for working people, hours. And then they're now going to start, I think right now it's scheduled to start in April, which is the paramedic program. Okay, that how are they doing that? And once we start getting in that cycle, that's exciting because people from, mostly Moreno Valley right now is the only other junior college. If they live in Moreno Valley, they may come this way, but I can assure you, if they live in Coachella Valley, they're probably not going that way.
Great, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I do.
Councilman.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Now, do we have any staffing shortages right now besides staffing the new ambulance that is coming up? Do we have any major staffing shortages, or are they normal?
No, again, I would say they're driven, well, first of all, let's define what a staffing shortage is, right? Are they open positions?
Correct.
Are they workers' comp? Are they FLMA? I will tell you, over the last year, we have been, and it's just the age of our workforce, FLMA and baby bonding has, I think it was 13 people have been off, and they can take up to 12 weeks off. So if you look at our current staffing, and I would say we're probably today or tomorrow, we're going to be outside of it. The final person for our open positions, he's in backgrounds right now. So we are full but one position. We do have 6 on workers' comp. Again, that creates positions. We can't fill those positions because they're on workers' comp. We just got the last one off of FLMA. Actually, no, that was for an engineer. We actually have 2 that are on FLMA for injuries as they sustained off duty. So it's not a workers' comp injury. They have to use their own time, but they qualify for FLMA. So when you look at all those ways that vacancies are hired or created, we don't have a staffing shortage because the workers' comp, those positions are filled. We have the other people that are in the pipeline. The people, like I said, I'm going to come to you next week and ask so we can get these people in backgrounds and all that. The final person, so I guess if you go technically, we have 1 person and he's in backgrounds right now. And then we will be completely full besides the workers' comp and the FLMA.
Now, are we having any trouble keeping our staff? In other words, are our employees that we have hired, are they leaving for other departments?
We've had 1 person leave, and he went to Alameda County, and it was because he was from Northern California. That's the only, let me think, I think that's the only one that we've lost. We did have one of the AOs leave because she chose to do a career change and go to nursing school.
But that have nothing to do with the way our department runs, or they're unhappy with our department or our city.
Again, from a fire department, I think what you're alluding to
Morality,
is there's change going on. As what I've shared to you, where it was 2 years ago and where we are today, it's a different fire department, right? There's different policies, there's different standards. Anytime you add a standard and say, hey, you're used to doing this, but now we're up here, people don't like it. But I can tell you unequivocally, people, I think what you're alluding to is over the last 3 weeks, we had a period of time due to, again, it was all those. It was FLMA, it was workers' comp, it was vacation. We had a total of 9 openings. Well, when in the safety side, we only have 41, right? And so I instituted some measures to make sure that we had the paramedic staffing that you have told us you want, and that made some people unhappy.
And the last question, is our fire department still one to look up to that future firemen and also paramedics and EMTs would want to work? Is this one that people seek to work in our city?
I will go. I'm going to be biased, right? I'm going to tell you, we've built a Maserati here. I think we are with your help and the apparatus, we're pumping on all cylinders, right? But that's the change I talk about. I'll go back to the latest example of the person that I talked to when we did, probably would have been 3 weeks ago now, that we did the recruitment for paramedics. We go through this process, skills, and they come to me. We interviewed 5. We didn't accept 2. We only brought 3 to me. I can speak for those 3. They wouldn't have signed a job offer if they didn't want to be here, right? And so it goes back to fit. What do you want, right? A lot of people, not everybody wants to be the best. And I know what the city manager has told me. I know what the council's told me. Some of you have had to use our services. I'm building this. And people who want to be up here, they're coming. And again, when I got here, I want to say there was 6 or 7 openings. As soon as something happened, I mean, there's been absolutely people who failed probation, right? This just didn't work out. As far as moving on, we don't have that. I know there's a narrative that it's just not happening.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you are building a premier fire department, and I can see the difference. But there's always people that are very uncomfortable with change, that they're used to the norm. But I'm happy to hear what you're doing. And just from what I see and what I hear from residents that have called 911 and the ambulance and fire department do show up, what they say, the type of services that you have offered, they're extremely happy. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Is that it? Thank you so much for your time. We've appreciated the presentation.
Is that it?
Well, I don't know. What more do you want?
You don't have anything?
Well, don't ask for money, but what else?
Thank you.
Thanks. All right.
So Mayor, that concludes today's budget update, unless any of you all have anything else. 2 weeks from...
We would do public comment. I was just waiting
Oh,
for
yeah. 2 weeks from today, we'll have the police department.
But he's not leaving.
You want me to
We were going to ask for public comment once you left the lectern, but that's all right.
Mayor Ross, I'll ask if we have any public comments. I know we do have one member of the community was here. Okay, it appears we have no members of the public present.
I told you he stayed at the lectern too long. He chased them all away.